are feeling into the room. Good afternoon, good evening, good night, depending on where you are. Can you drop in the chat where you're from? And then if you want to share, we're getting ready to go into a solid break for the majority of us. So, what are you going to do during the break? How are you going to relax and restore? I'm curious, partially because I need some ideas. So, where are you from? What do you think you're going to do during this long break that we have? All of that good stuff. Or maybe you're just sleeping during the break. I hope no one has to grade. If you're still in the classroom, I hope you don't have to grade. All right, so I am seeing South Carolina, Brooklyn, Chicago, New Mexico, Preston, Georgia, Pittsburgh, St. Louis, Twin Cities. Oh, do they still have that festival there? I'm sure they do. I feel like they do. South Florida. Dan says he's gonna play with his grandbabies and go boating. Of course, you can boat in Florida in the dead of winter for everybody else. St. Paul, hoping to stay warm. A giant pile of books to read. Yes, books to read. I'm excited for you to be able to read. Maryland, San Jose, Puerto Rico, Indianapolis, Queens, and +1 to reading coming in from Santa Fe. So we're just hopping in. We're saying where we're from, and then we're also dropping some suggestions about what maybe you're doing to inspire me to know what I should be doing during our upcoming winter break. I think the majority of us hopefully will be shutting down our computers for what the rest of the year. I hope at the end of next week, maybe. All right, coming from California. Looking forward to spending time with family. Me too. Me too. Going on a cruise. Now that sounds like a good time. Where are you going on? Where are you going to cruise? I'm just curious and nosy. But oh, the Bahamas. Okay, I would love to come and get into your luggage. Just come and hang out. I'm not gonna do too much. I'll be in the background and all that good stuff. Coming in from St. Louis as well. And guys, I'm coming from Jackson, Mississippi. Glad to have everyone here with us this evening. Gonna go ahead and get us started so we can be a little bit mindful of time. Welcome to the AI in Action series Kickoff. My name is Crystal Chapman, and I'm the Professional Learning and Community Manager here at CSTA. I'm a brown skinned Black woman with brown eyes, a short haircut, gold rimmed glasses, and I'm wearing one of my favorite teal CSTA shirts with the cute little purple logo. Feeling really great today and glad to have you all in our space. So let's go ahead and get started. And of course, we're going to talk about accessibility because here for us at CSTA, we strive to make sure that we have the best barrier-free experiences and designs for everyone that is here coming to learn and gain insight. And so we have an entire accessibility page that breaks down the commitments that we have and how we make sure that everyone is able to receive and learn and experience these presentations as best as they should or as best as they can. And so our sessions will include the materials available for you to download and see. We use high contrast, large text, and you will get a survey. So if in the survey there is a challenge or in the survey you want to talk about how great everything was, please make sure you let us know. And for those of you that may need closed captioning, if you look at the screen where I am and where this presentation is being displayed at the bottom, and I'm hoping I'm pointing in the right direction. This is me trying to be a YouTuber or a social media TikToker, maybe. Over there, you should see the closed caption symbol. And if it is not selected, it's a red strike against it. And if it is, when you click it, it will not have that red strike. And that will help if you need that type of support. All right, so we know everybody's on the social, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Blue Sky, Twitter, or X, depending on which one you call it. We want you to make sure that you're sharing far and wide what you are learning, what you are experiencing using our hashtag CSEdWeek. And so we look forward to your post. Our marketing team grabs the post and shares them because we like to make sure that we are amplifying what our community is experiencing and feeling. And so just in case you're a little, I want to post, but I'm not sure what to post. We have some sentence starters because, hey, educator to educator, we know sometimes you need a little help. A couple of my favorites are I didn't realize because I often don't realize things and learn things in our community spaces. And then, especially because this is the AI in action series, one action I can take would be a great sentence starter for what you learn and what you gain from one of the mini sessions that you can choose to attend tonight. And of course, we cannot start without thanking our CS Ed Week partners and sponsors. So, our premier sponsor is Amazon Feature Engineer. And so they do amazing, phenomenal things, especially with content related to helping students to gain insight and skill set in a very cool, unique way. Some of the things that they also have are the career tours and free training and curriculum. And if you're interested, the scholarship and internship program for students, their applications are open now until January 15th. And I know that many of you in our CSTA community, and I'm sure here in this room, have had students to successfully be awarded these scholarships, and there's some really great opportunities. In addition to Amazon Feature Engineer, we also have ACM, who is the world's largest computing society. They bring together educators, researchers, and professionals to inspire dialogue, share resources, and tackle challenges in computing. And so they have over 100,000 members, and they lead the way to promote excellence in lifelong learning and global collaboration in the computer science space. And ACM is always great because ACM essentially led to the creation of this organization. Endless. So, Endless is empowering the next generation, turning passion into skills and skills into opportunity. They're giving the youth tools and pathways to thrive. So they are an innovative space where students can shift from consumers to creators. So please check out Endless. And then we also have Infosys, and Infosys has been a partner for a while. Their foundation champions education, healthcare, empowerment, and sustainability, creating a lot of meaningful opportunities for underprivileged communities and driving long lasting social impact. So if you have not checked out our sponsors, please make sure you do. They constantly always support the work that we're doing and what we aim to bring to you. So we're here for CS Ed Week. If you're not aware, we'll do a quick history lesson. CS Ed Week was first launched by ACM, mentioning them again, back in 2009. And so the reason why it's around this time in December, it's because it's around the time of Grace Hopper's birthday, which is December 9th. And so she is one of the foundational people in the CS space. She coined the term, there we go, bug. And so this is an event that we are very proud of, that we're able to uh, remix and add new components to each year and bring it to you year after year. So this year is great because we kicked off the CSTA Rising Heroes program. And this is the first time that we have had student centered content at this level. And so if you guys weren't able to catch the session with the students who were on the panel and saying amazing things on Tuesday, make sure you go back so you can catch the recording. And all of the events from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, yesterday, we were talking about standards, are available for you to grab as well. So, when we're talking about why we're here and why we are celebrating CS Ed Week and why we want to, it's because CS Ed Week is an annual call to action to inspire K 12 students to learn computer science, advocate for equity in computer science education, and celebrate the contributions of students, teachers, and partners to the field. So, we're glad to have you here to celebrate with us. And so this year, you may have seen it or you may have heard of a little thing called AI. This year's theme is CS Powers AI Innovation. And so I mean, it is the headline, but computer science is the story. So from algorithms to ethics, CS gives students the tools to shape the future and not just react to it. So, as AI continues to transform the world that we're in, understanding computer science fundamentals isn't just an advantage anymore, it's essential. And so that's why this week we're highlighting the power that CS provides to unlock creativity, critical thinking, and problem solving skills. And so when we equip students with these skills, we're not just preparing them for the future, we're helping them to lead it. And speaking of leadership and inspiration, we want to pause for a second. Well, actually, I mentioned it a minute ago, but I'll mention it again. Want to make sure that you guys go to the CS Ed Week site to check out the CS Heroes content, all of the posters with the CS Rising Heroes. They're actually really cool, like coloring sheets and such. So make sure you're checking out those things and sharing and speaking about all of the different heroes that we've had across the years that have shared their expertise and shared their love for computer science education with us. All right, so what we're here for is the AI in Action series kickoff. And so, running down quickly what we're going to have going on, we're about to kick off a fireside chat in a moment. And then afterwards, we will go into two sets of breakout sessions where you will be able to choose the content from our different speakers from the Responsible AI Fellowship that we kicked off this year. And then afterwards, we're going to come back together for AI in Action planning. So, we're going to have a good time. I hope that you all are ready. And so I'm going to go ahead and introduce our fireside chat speaker, Evan Sheh, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So, Evan is an AI ethics researcher and educator whose work is shaped by diverse, multicultural communities. His research bridges STEM and the humanities, exploring challenges and insights that come from multiple perspectives. He is especially proud of the youth voices shaping this work through the Young Data Scientists League. And so I'm going to stop sharing so I can make space for Evan to come and join us.
Hey everyone, can you hear me okay?
Yes, you sound great.
Amazing.
So, welcome, welcome. Glad to have you in the space. So, let's see. The question of the day is what are you looking forward to do during the holiday break to get
Oh
us
my
started?
gosh. Well, first off, I just want to say it's a huge honor to be here. I love what y'all are doing in terms of accessibility. As a disabled, chronically ill person myself, I just really appreciate all the accessibility and accommodations that y'all are making to make sure that we can all enjoy this event. I am an Asian male with a little dusting of facial hair, light brown skin, hair that needs to be cut, but a brand new pair of glasses from Costco. So just super
Hey.
excited to be here, and I'm looking forward to just being in community with you all, and then afterwards doing a lot of reading and eating and just sleeping. That's my jam.
Hey, I'm with you. I need to make sure that I follow suit and read and eat and sleep. All right, so we I think a rapper that's kind of famous said, we're not necessarily here for a long time, but we're here for a good one. So let's go ahead and get into this conversation. So the first one is when we're talking about computer science education in this Gen AI space, um why should we continue to push computer science education, especially when we may hear from others that we might not need it anymore?
I can empathize first off with a lot of folks who are feeling super anxious. I've had a lot of my students come to me and just say, should I even learn this? If this thing's going to take my job in the future, they might have like an older sibling or someone in the family or just heard about people vibe coding, right? Using these tools to do the coding for them. I'm here to tell you good news and bad news, maybe both, depending on how you view AI. Uh, as someone who's done research in AI myself, been in these big tech companies that are producing these tools, um, I just have to break it to you. Like, there's a lot of pseudoscience going on. But what it means is good for us as educators and learners. Like, your job is safe. There is no world in which you do not need to know how to code. Someone needs to know how to manage these tools. And something that doesn't get talked about enough is how do you actually evaluate these tools, right? You've probably experienced them enough by now. You give it the same question 10 times, it'll give you 10 different answers. How do you evaluate that, right? How do you make sure it actually solves the problem? And guess what? The way you do that is through computer science. It's through science. It's through a lot of just multidisciplinary learning. But I love what y'all said with the headline. CS is really the story.
Yes, and we do believe that. And thank you for assuring us that, No one has to go and take another certification test anytime soon to teach different content. But yes, CS is the story. And if everyone builds using tools, then who's going to fix the problems? That's a phenomenal point. So when we're talking about teachers having to use the tools, because I mean, we're aware that it's becoming a requirement. It's not necessarily, you and I can pop into a classroom and say, oh, don't listen to your administrator, listen to us. So when we're thinking about the educators that are using, because they have to, um, what what practices should they have to use the tools, or maybe how should they evolve what they're doing to support that appropriate implementation of Gen AI tools?
Yeah, well, Crystal, for me, I think we can't have an honest conversation about this if we don't actually acknowledge what AI is and what it isn't. And I have all the empathy in the world for fellow educators because we've been through a lot. There's a lot that is just being pushed on us, and we're also responsible to a group of, I appreciate that, Shana. Well, we're responsible for the livelihood and well-being of like a lot of students in our classroom for hours a day. Sometimes we see them, as you all know, more than they see their own parents and families. And so I think number one, just paying attention to student safety and actually understanding what these tools and what they are and what they are not. I'm running an equity fellowship in New York City Public Schools. Shout out Christy Crawford and the CS for All team over here. And our teachers were just telling me yesterday, they were saying, there's some study that came out showing that something like 75% of our students have already had conversations with these chatbots as if they were like a human, or a friend. And I think that goes back to, what I've been trying to sound hey, yeah, that's right. New York City Public Schools. I've been trying to sound the alarm on this for a long time, dating back to this, I guess we call it AI psychosis now, because these machines are putting out text that in languages so deeply personal and human. We sometimes forget that these are mathematical models. We sometimes forget that these things don't have lived experiences. And the companies aren't making it any easier for us to evaluate what actually goes on inside the model. And so the shorthand I'll give you is that a lot of it is a facade. It's a useful facade. It can be responsibly used to solve problems that we care about. But we, unfortunately, all of us as educators now, we're on the front lines, especially the rank and file, when it comes to understanding student well-being and safety. So I'd say that's one dimension. And I'll say the other, maybe this kind of dips into another topic that I know you want to talk about, Crystal, is what kind of critical capacities should we actually empower our students with, when it comes to like teaching and meeting some of those ethical challenges. And I think that's so closely tied into that exact point. We've gotten here to the point where we've called this tool artificial intelligence. For me, that's a sin that dates back to the 50s. They used to be called automata, cybernetics. I have a friend, shout out Helen Lynn from NYU. She's putting together a zine on critical AI literacy. And that's one of the things that we talk about in this scene is actually there's a long legacy of these tools and algorithms that you all as CS educators is not going to be unfamiliar to you, in terms of data-driven algorithms, machine learning. I think it's time that we really need to address that and like really educate the public on what that means as opposed to AI when we think killer chatbots or like when young children think, hey, this is like something that knows life and has been through life and like a companion, a buddy. Like I'm all for making sure that we solve the loneliness problem, but for me, that's not it. So if I had to summarize it, we got to dispel some of these myths about artificial intelligence, even the construct of intelligence itself being grounded in eugenics. We've really got to like peek inside the black box of these tools, and that's why I couldn't be more excited to be here with you all, since I know that a lot of you all here as educators are solving that problem every single day already. Like, don't let someone else come out and go into your classroom and say they're the AI experts. Actually, you all are, because they're the ones selling it, but you're working with students directly.
Absolutely. And you're making me think of just the conversations that you and I've had, and then others have had, where a lot of people have appeared, possibly from out of nowhere, to tell us as educators how to use these tools when they don't have the connections with the students. And it's um, it just becomes, I think, more clear to me that where we may need to look back and grab are those heavy conversations we used to have about what I think we call it digital media literacy now, or whatever it was when we used to have to actively research and understand and kind of uncover where the content we were getting from the internet actually came from, and questioning its validity as a means to, I guess, make sure that what we were taking from our online experience, as limited as it was back then, was rooted in truth. And I think that we maybe have gotten a little bit away from that, which possibly has led to some of this, to where students do look at these tools as if they're friends, or if they're more trustworthy than the trusted adults in their space, and that's a serious concern. So with that in mind, um, when we're thinking about these challenging conversations, because I think we are sliding into a space a little bit where we're asking our educator colleagues to kind of push back a little bit, to question why this tool and why this way, or even why this much. What advice would you have about them, I guess, effectively pushing for those ethical considerations and conversations?
I love this question. And I feel like you kind of set me up well, Crystal, because I love what you just said about like going back and getting it and understanding the history that came before us. I mean, empathizing with the students in our classrooms, like I'll be the first to say to them, like, I did not grow up in an age where I had to worry about some of these problems. Our problems are different. But it doesn't mean that us old heads can't contribute a thing or two to the conversation. In fact, a lot of what the capitalist industry that I was a part of for a bit wants us to feel is that this is like a completely new and different moment. But it's not in many ways, you know. That's not to discount what these tools are doing. I mean, the newest models where they're generating these photorealistic, things, and now children have to deal with, unfortunately, this just onslaught of just child sexual abuse material and all these other problems. It's heartbreaking. It's a new challenge. It's novel, but we don't have to press the panic button. And I think what sometimes gets swept under the rug is the way that we can really cultivate a lot of joy and resistance in this act. And also, believe it or not, multidisciplinary STEM and science learning through this process. I'll give like a couple examples and you can check me if like I start rambling too much. All right, Crystal, but I'll say for my own journey, and maybe there's some folks in the audience or maybe students who can empathize with this. I got into math and CS because I didn't want to deal with the social problems. That felt too real for me, growing up as an Asian kid in the 90s where there weren't a lot of folks like myself in the community I grew up in, right? I wanted to escape to a world where we could just have things that were objective and neutral and we could prove things and build things. And it's taken me some odd decades to just realize that there's some problems you can't build your way out of, and that requires you to really reach out to like other classrooms. I work with a lot of teachers who are just so excited when I tell them this message because they're looking for excuses, to like go down the hall and talk to the history, teacher, social studies, I guess is what we call it, English, because I think our school structures haven't enabled us a ton of time to be able to have those multidisciplinary conversations. But to meet this moment, we really need that. Here's where I'll give you a second example. One of my students, right after ChatGPT launched, I had known them since they were in sixth grade. And they reached out to me and they said, look, I'm feeling really panicked. I've had a death in the family. I need to figure out how to make money. And I'm like worried that AI is going to take my job in the future. There are these headlines out there going like, this thing is going to be smarter than your professor in 2 years. PhD level intelligence is coming. There's another headline that says AI is a black box. We can't understand what's inside it. And this student, understandably so, was feeling super intimidated. And I said, look, we just have to sit down and play with it and arrive at that emotional closure wherever the journey gets us. So this student said, okay, well, what do I want to be when I grow up? I want to be a doctor. And so they just asked ChatGPT, can you write me a story of a doctor who saves a struggling patient? And the more the student played around with the story writing prompt, the more they realized, the names of the doctors. There's a lot of John, Ethan, Michael, sometimes a little bit of Sarah and Emily, but the names of the students, and I should also say that this student was a student of color. You have your Juan, your Carlos, your Diego, your Jamal, your Priya, your Hiroshi. not in any sort of realistic encapsulation. We're talking about thousands of times is what we ended up discovering. Thousands of times the level of bias compared to whatever you might see in the real world, quote unquote, you know? So how did that come to be? And what just turned out as like a play session turned into a serious multi-year research project. You know, we brought in professors and researchers from Stanford, from GMU, from Georgia Tech. Like people were jumping on this, and you know, this paper got accepted to I think I can say it, you know, but it got accepted to Nature, right? That's like one of the top journals in the world, coming from like a student leading the project who had never done this kind of research before, let alone feeling intimidated by AI. And I think what I really want to highlight in that exact story is that student years later, they came to me and they're like, look, I don't view AI as this like all powerful sort of thing anymore that's going to take my job. I know its limitations. I learned a lot about how the sausage is made. And I feel like I'm in a position of power now where I can actually shape and model these, you know, a more ethical way of engaging with these tools and building these tools that doesn't rely on environmental harms, that doesn't rely as much on labor exploitation. I could go on clearly, but I just want to simplify it to this message. It's your turn to, you know, tap into the things that I think a lot of things that as educators we enjoy doing, right? Like the real world relevance piece, the problem-based learning, and yeah, for any administrators on the call, you know, that's a challenge I'll put forward to you as well, as how can we create an environment where your rank and file educators and your students can actually experience that as well, right?
Okay, number one, that is amazing. Congratulations to your student and everyone that worked on that, because that is phenomenal to have the question and then have the resources and the ability to go in and seek out the information, because that's what I mean, that's what research is. And sometimes we doctor it up and put 20 and $40 words on it, but that truly is, it's answering questions. And that is a that is a serious question. Okay, so we've been in the depths of it a little bit. We've been in the trenches talking, about some of the challenges, but I do want to end with a little bit of a positive note. And that story leads us right on into where I'm trying to go. When we're thinking about the opportunities, because I do believe, and I think that you agree, that we have to look at both sides of it. There are great things and there are not so great things. And being able to have that conversation comfortably is what is going to put us in the proper space to be the best advocates for our students and to make sure that these tools work as they should. So when you're thinking about the opportunities, what is, I think, what you're most looking forward to being able to maybe offer students or to see students accomplish as these tools are continuing to grow? Because, yes, I did see the fruit labeled image creator the other day, and I'm still confused because it was just pristine imaging, and I'm not ready for it. But what are you looking forward to when it comes to what we should be able to do in the future?
Yeah, you know, I probably have let my politics seep out a little bit through this call, but I'll try to ground us on something I think we can all get behind is that there's a lot of challenges that, and I'll say this to any students who are on the call, there's a lot of challenges that my generation, like many others, unfortunately, have left before you. I think a lot of people in the generation I came up with, like I didn't even have a CS classroom when I was in high school. I learned this when I was in college, but now we have like Scratch. We have all these tools where, you know, I'm used to teaching middle school math, and a lot of my middle schoolers, I'm just used to like variables being a problem. I'm used to letters freaking people out. And a lot of people say to me, they're like, Mr. Evan, like we've already seen this. You know, we saw it in our computer science classroom. So I think for me, that's just absolutely beautiful. I think that really positions like students in a position of power and knowledge and authority. Quick shout out, you know, a lot of my students were in the Rising Heroes panel. They presented their research at AI ethics conversations, and that's now being like fed on to policymakers. Like for better or for worse, we're all in this moment together, and your students, believe it or not, may already have a lot of the tools that it takes to be able to contribute to like the cutting edge, not tomorrow, not in the future. Like we're talking about today, a lot of these studies, it's middle school math, it's computer science, it's like science, it's history, you know? And for a lot of students who don't traditionally identify with one discipline, this is your moment to shine.
Oh, I love that. Oh, that was the best. I'm glad this is recorded because I'm gonna snatch it. I'm gonna post it somewhere on social.
Oh.
Um, Thank you so much for taking the time out and coming to have this conversation. Please, you guys, show him how amazing this was in the chat. Like, clap it up, drop the emojis, and all the good stuff. Thank you, and thank you, and thank you. I wish we could continue, but of course, we do have to move on to the other content. And yeah, thank you, Evan.
Appreciate you all. Happy CSI week. Get in touch if I can help.
Yes, surely, surely. Thank you. All right, guys, I'm going to go back to sharing my screen allegedly. That was so great. We should probably do like a whole hour of just that. I don't know. Next time we're gonna like have you guys call in and ask questions and stuff. All right, so we have finished that, and I know that we are going a little bit into networking time, but it's okay. I hope forgive me a little bit. And I want to make sure before we go into our breakout sessions that you're a little bit aware of what's going on and what's happening. So first, quick question: have you read the AI priorities? So CSTA, along with AI for K-12, and a lot of you, probably in this call, worked really diligently to create some priorities for us to use to guide how we're teaching with and teaching about AI. And so these 5 pillars, I think they're called. Forgive me if they're not. These 5 pillars are what we're using to guide how we are navigating CS with the sprinkle of AI over here in CSTA. And these pillars are also what we're using to guide the work that our responsible AI fellows are doing within the fellowship. And if you haven't heard, yes, in addition to the Impact Fellowship, we now have a second fellowship, the Responsible AI Fellowship. And here we have educators who are current classroom teachers from across the country that are working to navigate and answer some of these questions that we all still have and create content and resources that are going to help support us as we're trying to teach about and teach with these tools. And so these are the priorities that we're working with. And then, so as we go into our breakout sessions, you can choose to hear from a speaker as they're speaking to one of those priorities. So we finished our fireside chat. We're kind of in the midst of a networking break. This is technically networking. I'm giving you information and things, right? Right. But afterwards, we're going to go into breakout one, where you can hear from Mark or Dan or Matt, you can choose. And they're talking about one of these AI priorities from the lens of someone in the classroom that is doing the work. And then we'll have another networking break. And then we'll slide into breakout two, where you will have Latoya, Kate, Chris, and then there's also a community of practice set during that time. And they're talking about different parts of these priorities as well. And then another networking break. And then we're going to come back here to kind of close things out and share what we've learned. So I've given you your, I guess, marching orders, if you will. So please feel free to click the sessions link or the sessions icon over on the left side of your screen, where you can gain access to the first set of breakout rooms in just a few moments. And then we will come back here at 6:30 p.m. Central time, because that's my time, for the AI in action planning. So see you soon and enjoy.